Well, hello. I'm not used to doing this. I'm Father Ronald, and I cook, but I've never been on film cooking before, so this is not like a TV program. What we're going to be making, and what you bought, are something called Tortelli di zucca. It's tortelli are bigger than tortellini are little. Like a little girl is Bella, and if it's a little girl, it's Bellina. So tortellini are small tortelli. So if you know what a tortellini is, what tortellini are, you'll know what we're going to be doing. Now, what I'm going to do through the process, and this is pumpkin filled, and that comes from a certain part of Italy, and I'll talk about the filling later. But to make dough, it's very simple. What we're going to do today is 2 cups of flour and 3 eggs, and maybe just a dash of olive oil. And what you do is I'm going to make a mound. I started it already. I'm going to make another cup of flour there and leave a well. Then I'm going to crack 3 eggs into it. And if I think I need more, eggs are small nowadays, so sometimes you can tell you need a little more. I might have to add it. I'll start to knead that, and then we'll show you how you start to knead it, and it'll be a little process. I won't make you watch the whole thing. We'll continue after I've got it kneaded a little more and show you how to roll it out with the machine, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is take these 3 eggs and crack them in this bowl. You're sitting there looking all the time. And it's easier if you swirl them up a little bit first before you pour them in, okay? That's pretty good. I'm going to get my other cup of flour here. Now, if you were doing 4 cups of flour, you'd do 6 eggs and so forth, but it's easier, I think, for me to do 2 cups at a time. I'll pour this little bit in here and keep that well there. It might start running all over, but not to worry. And just start folding it in, folding the flour in. Okay, you see what I say about running all over the place? So that's what happens. But the flour will start to emulsify with it. Put the rest of the eggs in. Looks a little messy, but once it gets going, it's pretty easy. Let me get this started. And then if you think, like I say, when we start, I'll let you know if I have to add another egg. I think right now it seems pretty good, but you never know. Okay. I'm not going to make you watch the whole process of putting this together. I'll pause it for a moment and then I'll come back. Okay, it's like magic. We're starting to get some pasta. I didn't want to have to watch the whole thing. But if you can see what I'm doing, I have it here, and I take my hand and go this way, and just keep going back on itself. Okay, if that makes any sense, because it has to be nice and pliable and mixed together. Now, 3 eggs were enough for this 2 cups of flour. The eggs must have been larger than I used recently, but I also put a little olive oil in it too. That's always nice, a little bit of olive oil. But basically that's it for egg pasta. It's flour, eggs, and a little bit of olive oil. But if you can see, you get a nice little clump. And if I keep doing this, you'll be able to tell. You don't want to feel any kind of little grainy things inside. You want it to be nice and soft, okay? So we have a lot of people going by, and busybodies and things like that around here. We have a lot of bosses in the community, so they'll all be checking it out. All right, I think you get the idea. So I have this pliable. I'm going to do a little bit more after we shut this off in just a moment, but I'll let you know, then you let this rest. You don't go using it right immediately. Let it rest a while, and while it's resting, I'll talk to you in a moment about how to make the filling that's going to go inside. Okay, so let's rest for a moment. Okay, as I told you, this is nice and pliable now. I have a little plastic around it. We're going to let it rest, as it were, while I talk to you about the filling. So I'm just going to put that aside. Most people would be doing it and making it at the same time, but if you're not, put it in plastic and put it in the refrigerator and come back later and take it out and let it warm up before you use it. But we're going to use it right away. Now, tortelli di zucca comes from part of Italy up near Parma and so forth, where it's a strange thing to put in pasta. We don't tend to do that. But what you do is you put pumpkin Or you could cook pumpkin or cook zucchini, squash or something. But I usually tend to use just the regular pumpkin with no flavoring in it. And to that, you add Parmesan cheese, and whoever bought these will get the recipe of how much. I'm not going to do, there's Parmesan cheese in there, a little nutmeg, okay? And then something called, and I'll give you a substitute, something called amaretti cookies. Little cookies that they have in Italy that have a taste of almond in them. They're very powdery and are crunchy. You crush those, mix it into the pumpkin with the cheese and the nutmeg, and it gives that sweet, cheesy taste. It's hard to describe. And as I said, we're going to make these a little bigger than the tortellini. And then that's all you do. You lay them out on a tray, and I'll do that in a moment and show you, and then freeze them. With tortellini, you can dry them and then package them, but this filling is so wet, you freeze them on a tray and then bag them later if you're not going to eat them that day. And we'll talk about how you serve them later. So we can pause for just a minute. I'm working alone now, but it's really much better if you can do these with someone else, because you roll them, I'll show you how the rolling out process and cutting, you don't want the dough to dry. So I'm just going to do a little piece at a time. And how you do that, maybe you want to dust it with a little flour. Now you can roll these out. You could roll these out with a rolling pin, but I'm going to use this little gizmo here that you can just run them through like a ringer. And what this one is it has different settings for for thickness. So I'm going to run it through once at 6. Okay? And you can see it's pretty thick. So I'm going to bring it down to 4. Right? And then normally for the tortellini that I make, I go all the way to 1. It's very thin, but these you don't want it that thin. So we're going to do it to number 2 on this machine. It's not 1 is the last one, but what's nice about it, then it's thick enough to hold this filling. Okay, so you have as I said, you can see why it'd be helpful if you have help. What you do then is lay this out, and I just cut it like this. And what we're going to do, I don't know if you can still see me, I'm going to cut these about down the middle. And then if you see, I'm making them fairly large. Okay. And as I said, if you have help, it goes a lot better. But I want to show you how to fill one. I'll do a couple of them for you. You take a little bit of this, put it in the middle, all right? And if you're working alone, you might want to have a little dish of water with you, because if the dough starts to dry, you use your finger around the edge, all right? So you take this and you make a triangle. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Just a little triangle like that. If you can see my hands, what I'm doing, twist it over, and you make a little, almost like a little cap. They call it tortellini or cappelletti. Sometimes the Italians call those little hats. So it's a pretty simple process. As I said, it goes a lot faster if you have people doing it with you. And I'll do a couple of them just to get some idea. It's very easy though. But as I said, the hardest process is if you're doing it alone, your dough might dry out, so you want to wet the edges before you try to get them to stick together, otherwise they won't stick. I'll do one more and then we'll stop, and I'll show you, we'll do something, another process at the end. Okay. That's our last one for now. There you go. All right, we can pause for a moment. So it's magic, you have some now. You have some on these trays that have already made up. You have some ready to go. As you can see those there, they put the little dot in there, and then you fold them, And as I said, we did them enough. You fold it, we showed you how to fold them before. Once they're on the trays, then you put them in the freezer. Because unless you're going to eat them right away, most people don't. Let them get nice and frozen and then put them in baggies and store them. Now to serve them, you boil the pasta and they float right to the top. They're very easy to tell when they're done. But you have a pan, a nice big saucepan with butter and fresh sage. Now if you don't have sage in your garden, we have some in our garden still at St. Bede, and it stays all winter. But if you don't have it, get some fresh sage, chop it up, not real little, with whole leaves, the whole leaves of sage in there. And then with the butter, and then when the pasta is drained, put those right into the saucepan, toss it nicely, kind of even a little brown a little bit, with the butter on it, pour them onto a plate, and then sprinkle them with Parmesan cheese. And bon appetito, you're gonna have a chance to eat them. It's really good. So I hope you try them. And if you have any questions, after you get them, let me know. All right, so have a good dinner. Bye-bye.